whole idea behind the Palm DAO is the decentralized business development treasury ethos, and essentially where that came from is this community's eagerness not just to cheer on the development, but to actually be involved in the development.
In the broader context of the sharing economy and DAOs, how does the community play a crucial role in shaping the future of systems like Palmyra? Daniel, how do you aim to implement a sharing economy model, and in what ways does it draw inspiration from or differ from the model used by World Mobile?
So again, it's all about the flavor, right? World Mobile is working on the same first principles. However, they have their own piece of the puzzle that they're solving right now with connectivity, which is actually very synergistic to what we're doing. Now, the whole idea behind the Palm DAO is the decentralized business development treasury ethos, and essentially where that came from is this community's eagerness not just to cheer on the development, but to actually be involved in the development. And this is actually, again, the idea behind Catalyst. Why is Catalyst so successful? It's because Catalyst is a place that will aggregate ideas, and they will give them a real chance at being funded and being developed. And so this is where the idea behind the Palm DAO came. We had a constant influx of community members, not just saying, "Hey guys, you're doing God's work" or whatever, which is always inspiring. It's always great to have community support, but they would come to us and take it a step further. They would come to us and say, "Hey guys, I have an uncle that is say a tea producer in Sri Lanka, for example, right? I have an in with that industry. I know 10 different tea farmers that they can utilize this system. I can totally see how they can utilize the system. We can bring them on, and these guys have problem with access, and they have problem with transparency to bring their product to the Western market, and they already have people interested. I can make this opportunity work for you." And so in this case, right now we're taking these opportunities and we're actually white gloving them, and we're saying, okay, we'll put the business development team on this. We'll put a couple of guys on this. They're going to work with you. They're going to make this happen. They're going to talk to the producer. They're going to onboard the producers. They're going to onboard the buyers. Now, as you scale, you can't have a business development team of 100,000 people, because if we're talking about massive change, we're talking about global change, you have to have a sustainable, scalable model to do that. And so this is why this business development treasury is so important, because in this case, the person that's bringing the initiative can take the initiative themselves and grow it out. So essentially what they'll do is they will submit a proposal, just like with Catalyst. The community will vote on the proposal, just like with Catalyst. And if this proposal is in line with the ethos of expansion and of scaling of the Palm economy and the Palmyra ecosystem, it'll get funded. And then this person can go and do that business and bring that business to the platform, bring that business in a sharing economy type of way. So this is why it's so exciting, because it's not only telling the community, hey, thank you so much for your support. It's saying, okay, guys, here are the keys. Go and do this business if you can do this business. And if not, we'll find you somebody to do this business with. And again, this is how it happens with Cardano Catalyst. This is how it happens with ErgoHack. A lot of times you don't have somebody who knows that can do all the pieces. So you have to put together a team. You have to put together a team that is, they're specialists in this particular region, that particular region. You put it together, you bring the proposal to the community, and you say, okay, listen, we got all these pieces checked off. This is a real thing. We can bring it into the ecosystem. And this is what we want for the Palmyra ecosystem and for the Palm economy, is for people to take that initiative, to put these things together, and to create innovation, and to create opportunity, and to grow it, and to essentially be at a point. And this is, this is what Charles is doing right now, because, and throughout the years, I heard this, you hear this constantly. It's like, oh, Charles, He doesn't care about Cardano anymore. He's doing this. He doesn't care about Cardano. He's doing that. He wants people to replace him. He wants the Constitutional Committee to replace him. He doesn't want to do any. He just wants to fly around in his helicopter and stuff. Well, I mean, it's nice, but that's not really it. It's about evolving the ecosystem, right, Charles? It's about it can be about you all the time. It has to blossom, and it has to graduate, and it has to be self-sufficient. And that is the only way to scale it. It scales beyond one person. It has to scale beyond one person for it to be sustainable. And this is what we want, and this is what I want for the Palm economy, is to scale it beyond where Dan is. We still want to have Dan there, but we don't necessarily need Dan for this thing to keep scaling. And this is the same thing with governance. There will come a time where Charles, yes, we respect Charles. We want Charles to contribute to the ecosystem, but Charles doesn't have to be the CEO of Cardano anymore. The community is the CEO of Cardano.
Right.
And that's the bottom line, right, Charles? I mean, that's what we're heading towards.
It's so funny. I'm damned if I do, damned if I don't. I make a video saying, hey, look, we got the ICC, and I'm so excited that it's finally in place. And by the way, IO is not going to serve in the CC or as a DREP, after full governance turns on. They say, oh, Charles is abandoning Cardano. He doesn't care about Cardano anymore. And then you say, well, we'd like to stay. And you'll be like, oh my God, Charles is a tyrant. He never wants anybody to be in charge. So you can't win, no matter what people say. But when you take a step back, the spirit of what you're saying is decentralization is good when you're talking about an economy. And I agree completely. You have to be able to measure it, which is why we created the EDI with the University of Edinburgh, and we're starting to figure out how to apply that in different projects in different contexts. And the spirit of the question is like this DAOification of things. It's a complicated thing. Associations, trade groups, members-based organizations, DAOs, cooperatives. Mondragon's one of the largest cooperatives in the world. It's been in since the 1950s. It was set up by a Catholic priest, I think, in Spain. Gives you a sense that people have been talking about this for a really long time. And at the core of it really is saying it needs to be fair. And if it's a multi-sided marketplace, both the producers and consumers have to feel like management's not getting in the way of what they do. And what's really cool is if you look at all the different things like MetaGov or what we're doing in Cardano, or just, some of the Cardano projects like Drip Drops and others, everybody's having deep conversations about what is good governance and how do you get people who participate in the marketplace, not only just to be a passive participant, but an active participant in the governance of that marketplace. And really, the token economy gives you the power to do that. We all, as project leaders, have to figure out what's the pace that you do that at, where does you have explicit versus delegative authority. And we're figuring that out in Cardano land right now, from everything of how to write a constitution to how to run an on-chain government to what institutions are necessary to be able to facilitate and turn complexity into simplicity. You asked about World Mobile. There, it's complicated because it's really hard for a decentralized entity to own spectrum. If you look at the ITU or you look at any of these specific laws, everything is written in the direction of company XYZ owns a lease on spectrum A, B, and C from nation state. It's really hard to get them to conceive that some DAO is going to go and license spectrum and give it legal character and agency. So, we recognize that. And so the ADGM created the Digital Ledger Technology Foundation standard, creates legal character for a decentralized movement. We created the DAO law in Wyoming. So, it's one of those things where there's a bottom-up approach where many different jurisdictions are creating kind of legacy pipelines that you can embed in. So far, that works for unregulated entities. What remains to be seen is how do you get to the next step where maybe you need an RIA, or you need some sort of bank license, or you need some sort of exchange license, like the CFTC, for example, traditionally regulates commodities exchanges inside the United States. So how would that get grafted on into a decentralized marketplace that crosses borders and jurisdictions, runs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and perhaps is collectively owned by a group of token holders, some of which are publicly known and have stable identities, and some of which are not? It's a fascinating question, and it's something that every regulator in the world is trying to figure out right now. And it's really cool to see Dan and his group kind of be on the vanguard of that, and they're forcing uncomfortable conversations at the moment.
Yeah, it's you touched on this, and that is why it's so important to try and be as straight and compliant as possible in these particular situations. This is why, this is why, for example, we KYC. People don't like that, right? Especially in this particular part of the palm economy. They didn't. Some people say, "Oh, KYC is against what we're here for." Well, look, what we're here for is to change the paradigm, right? What we're here for is to go out to these organizations and to show them that this is a way for you to. There is a way for you to de-risk. There is a way for you to regulate in this particular environment. And what we do, say, well, for example, what USDM does with the way they launched, is very much future-proofing yourself when you're actually going out there and you're talking to regulators and you're expanding cross-border and cross-agency to show them that, yes, you are in the business of compliance, you're in a business of reasonable and smart legislation, right? And so this is essentially what is needed to build a business in these particular environments, build a business or build an ecosystem that can, say, accept licensing, because as I said before, we're looking to actually become the first fully licensed hub and spoke commodities exchange that utilizes tokenization, utilizes blockchain technology in concert with Web2 technology. For this, you need licenses. You go to get this license, you have a bunch of skeletons in your closet, and you launch something really stupid back in the day. They'll look at this, they'll say, "Hey guys, you know what? This doesn't look good. You can't proceed." You cannot do that. And this is a fiduciary responsibility that we have right now to the future of the project and to the future of the ecosystem, to do all we can to actually have these uncomfortable conversations now, and to have these uncomfortable conversations along the way, so that it changes the paradigm. And just to give you an example of these, what the evolution these uncomfortable conversations have. When I went to Georgia for the first time in 2018, one of the meetings I had was with the Bank of Georgia, the Central Bank of Georgia. And we sat down, and they had a meeting with us. We sat down with them. We just started talking about generally, what crypto does, what stable coins can do, and this whole funny business that we're in. They listened, and they were saying, "You know what? Yeah, we're aware of this, but we're not okay. We'll just don't call us. We'll call you." And
I've had that conversation too, by the way.
I know you have, Charles. I know you have. Fast forward 3 years of constantly going, "Hey, by the way, guys, you know what? This we're not calling you. Okay, call us when you're ready. But here's this information of what we're doing. Here's that information what we're doing. Oh, by the way, you know what? Regulation in this particular field can actually be complied with because we have this technology here. We have this set up here." Fast forward 3 years, this bank, the Central Bank of Georgia, had a conference for stable coins and basically how to create a digital central bank currency. Well, they called it CBDC, but it was really a stable coin, which was actually a lot more, a much better instrument in that particular sense for the bank to utilize as a tool in their tool chest. And like I said, and they invited us, they invited Ripple, they invited Ethereum, they invited all the big players to have this conversation. And like I said, this was a conference. They dedicated time to this. They dedicated resources to this. This is the same group of people that 3 years back said, "Sorry guys, but this is too scammy for us to listen to. We're not interested right now." 3 years later, they were very, very interested. And you just have to keep at it. You just have to keep pounding at it. You have to keep in there, and you have to understand that at the end of the tunnel, if you just plow through this stuff, there's always a solution. It's just a matter of tuning into that solution and staying with it, sticking to it, so that you can get to a point where this solution or these solutions can be implemented and deployed, so that you can make this change that your first principles are guiding you towards.
Yeah, and Peyton, if the conversation's not uncomfortable, you're not innovating. There's just these markets are too big. There's too much going on, and you can't have half measures in what you do. You have to really be out there, and you have to kind of force people to rein you in a little bit, because you're revolutionary and you're carrying the torch. You're like, we're going to go burn this down. We're going to build something new, and it's going to be better. And then they're like, okay, all right, like we understand. Let's scale back a little bit. And you're all right, fine, But that's what we try to do in the cryptocurrency space, because honestly, what are we talking about here? We're talking about taking markets that move at the speed of paper, not even digital, but paper, with human beings that go to bed at night and maybe trade for a few hours, a few days a week, and they take the bank holidays and Christmas off and these things, to markets that are 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, that have no geography. And that's such a profound revolution when you think about settlement time and liquidity and these other things, and the fact that it's not just one market, but you're putting insurance and credit and all these other things because they're neighbors of it, and eventually they'll all be one thing. And you talk about very complicated bundled products that the poorest people in the world can trade, not just Goldman Sachs or Morgan Stanley or BlackRock. It's a really powerful concept. And so it's revolutionary because it requires everybody to get a little uncomfortable. And they also start realizing that maybe their business models aren't so sound and stable. And maybe they're going to get their lunch eaten, just like the internet fundamentally changed print media and you had to adapt or die. So it's exciting to be on the forefront of all these things. And we always try to, push as far as we can go, as fast as we can go, but somebody's got to do the yeoman's work of actually going into the jurisdictions and doing the last mile of wiring in the legacy into the crypto side. Because it's easy for me to sit here in Longmont, Colorado, in my comfortable lazy boy chair, and go ahead and write code and talk to people and do things. It's a lot harder to actually physically travel to the jurisdiction, sit down with the person. It's 122 degrees, high humidity. The air conditioner doesn't work. It hasn't worked in 6 years. And sit down with this guy and be like, let's talk about public key cryptography. Like, what the fuck? You have to go through that whole conversation, that intellectual house. But that is the work that changes the world just as much as the protocol development is, and these types of things. And you need to merge both sides together in order to get it done.
Yeah, it's something that I kind of also experienced myself, and of course during my tenure at IOG, I did a bit of travel, but I am kind of in the same place where Charles was in the beginning of Cardano, where you just have to be out there constantly out there, going to the place, right? You can't just delegate from my Japanese lazy boy chair and tell Sri Lanka what to do. You have to go there. You have to set up operations on the ground, which is what we did with Zengate. Zengate SL was set up last year. We have to hire staff. I have to be there for that. And it is fucking hot in Sri Lanka. And you still have to go. You still have to go to these meetings. You still have to be presentable. You still have to talk to the right people in the right context. You have to show them that this is the way to go. And this is not glamorous work, because people think, oh, travel, it's so great. You guys get to go to all these places. You get to go to Southeast Asia and Africa. It's not a vacation. You go there to work. You go there to change. And it is uncomfortable a lot of times to go into these meetings. You have to have you really have to, like I said, you have to keep going back to why you're here in your mind to be the most effective. Why am I here? What am I doing here? What brought me here? Because if you forget that, then there's no point in you doing this stuff. But if you do remember that, then you will go to these meetings, and it is fucking tiring. It is really tiring. A lot of times it wears you out. I mean, like I said, I remember you traveled, what, like I said, like 340 days out of the year for how many years? And Charles, Charles would still be, up all hours of the night, having meetings with me, having meetings with other people, and traveling and doing this and doing that. And you have to do that. And that is what moves things, because you have to be there on the ground to move things along, or else it's not going to happen. It's a world, right? And the world is big, and you have to be, you can't be everywhere at once, but sometimes you have to. So that's, it's just the nature of the business. If you want to change things, you have to be where the change is happening.